You know that feeling when you're lying in bed, exhausted from the day, ready to surrender to sleep, and then your brain decides it's the perfect time to replay every conversation you had, analyze every decision you made, and catastrophize about everything that could possibly go wrong tomorrow. It's 3 a.m., and instead of dreaming, you're trapped in a mental prison of your own making. Why does your mind choose the quietest, darkest hours to become the loudest? Why do thoughts that seemed manageable during the day suddenly feel crushing in the middle of the night? And why can't you just turn it off and sleep like a normal person? This isn't insomnia in the traditional sense. This is something deeper, more insidious. It's what psychologists call rumination, but what you experience as a relentless mental hamster wheel that spins faster the more tired you become. Your brain has turned bedtime into its own private courtroom, and you're always the defendant. The 3 a.m. overthinking epidemic isn't random. There's a specific neurological and psychological perfect storm that happens when your defenses are down, your environment is quiet, and your mind finally has the space to process everything you've been pushing aside all day. During daylight hours, you're in survival mode. Work demands, social interactions, responsibilities. Your brain is focused on execution, on getting through the endless list of tasks and obligations. But when the world goes quiet, when there are no more distractions, no more immediate demands on your attention, that's when your mind finally has the bandwidth to process. And process it does. With the enthusiasm of a detective who's been saving up evidence for months, Dr. Susan Nolan Huxama's research on rumination shows that your brain isn't just randomly generating anxious thoughts at night. It's trying to solve problems, make sense of social interactions, prepare for future threats. The problem is that most of the problems your 3 a.m. brain wants to solve are either unsolvable, already solved, or don't actually exist. But your brain doesn't know the difference. It treats your coworker's slightly weird tone in today's meeting with the same urgency as an actual crisis. It replays that awkward moment from 3 years ago as if it's breaking news. It rehearses conversations that may never happen as if they're scheduled for tomorrow morning. This is the anxiety time loop. Your mind gets stuck in a feedback system where worry generates more worry, where each anxious thought spawns 3 more, where the very act of trying to think your way out of anxiety creates more anxiety to think about. And there's a cruel biological component to this. Your cortisol levels, which should naturally drop at night to prepare your body for sleep, stay elevated when you're ruminating. Your nervous system interprets all this mental activity as evidence that there's something to be worried about. So it keeps you alert, vigilant, ready to respond to threats that exist only in your head. The modern world has made this worse, in ways we're only beginning to understand. You're living through what researchers call the age of anxiety. Information overload, social media comparison, 24/7 news cycles, economic uncertainty, social isolation, disguised as digital connection. Your brain is trying to process more complexity, more ambiguity, more social information than human minds were designed to handle. But the 3 a.m. brain doesn't just worry about today's problems. It becomes a time machine, traveling back to embarrassing moments from decades ago and forward to catastrophes that will probably never happen. It's as if your mind has appointed itself the CEO of worst-case scenario planning, and it's working overtime without pay. You might find yourself having conversations with people who aren't there, explaining yourself to imaginary critics, defending decisions you made years ago to an audience that stopped caring long before you did. Your bedroom becomes a theater where you're simultaneously the performer, the audience, and the harsh critic reviewing the show. Dr. Matthew Lieberman's neuroscience research reveals something fascinating. Your brain's default mode network, the neural system that's active when you're not focused on the outside world, becomes hyperactive in people prone to rumination. When there's no external stimulus demanding your attention, your brain doesn't rest. It turns inward and starts analyzing, evaluating, worrying. This is why meditation apps and mindfulness techniques can feel impossible when you're in the thick of 3 a.m. overthinking. They're asking you to quiet a mind that's convinced it's doing important work. Your brain genuinely believes that if it stops analyzing, something terrible will happen. That if it stops rehearsing, you'll be unprepared. That if it stops reviewing, you'll make the same mistakes again. And there's often a perfectionist component to midnight rumination. Your day brain can accept good enough, but your night brain demands flawless performance in every interaction, perfect decisions in every moment, complete control over every outcome. It reviews your day like a harsh performance evaluation, finding every mistake, every missed opportunity, every less than ideal response. But here's what your 3 a.m. brain doesn't understand. Most of the problems it's trying to solve aren't actually problems that can be solved through thinking. They're emotional experiences that need to be felt, processed, and released. They're social uncertainties that can only be resolved through actual communication, not mental rehearsal. They're future concerns that can only be addressed through present moment action, not midnight planning sessions. The overthinking mind operates under a fundamental illusion that if you can just think hard enough, long enough, thoroughly enough, you can control outcomes, you can prevent mistakes, you can prepare for every possibility, you can figure out what everyone else is thinking and optimize your responses accordingly. But life isn't a chess game where you can calculate all the moves in advance. It's more like jazz improvisation, where you have to respond to what emerges in the moment, where the beauty comes from spontaneity, not from perfect planning. Your 3 a.m. mind is trying to create certainty in a fundamentally uncertain world. It's trying to control things that can't be controlled. It's trying to solve problems that don't have solutions, at least not the kind of solutions that can be found through mental analysis. And the more you feed this pattern, the stronger it becomes. Every night you spend ruminating trains your brain that bedtime is thinking time. You're inadvertently conditioning yourself to associate lying down with ramping up. Your bedroom becomes a trigger for mental hyperactivity instead of a signal for rest. The cruelest part is that none of this midnight mental work actually improves anything. You don't make better decisions because you spent 3 hours analyzing yesterday's choices. You don't have better conversations because you rehearsed them all night. You don't prevent future problems by catastrophizing about them in the dark. What you do create is exhaustion, mental fatigue that compounds day after day, a nervous system that's chronically activated, a mind that's trained to see threats everywhere, problems in every interaction, danger in every uncertainty. But there's hope in understanding the mechanism. Once you recognize that your 3 a.m. brain isn't actually solving problems, it's just spinning its wheels in anxiety mud, you can start to relate to those thoughts differently. The goal isn't to never have racing thoughts at night. The goal is to recognize them for what they are: your mind's misguided attempt to help you, not an accurate assessment of reality. Those thoughts feel urgent and important, but they're mostly mental noise generated by a tired, overstimulated nervous system. Your 3 a.m. thoughts are not your wisest thoughts. They're your most anxious thoughts. They're not insights. They're symptoms, and symptoms don't require solutions. They require care. The path out of the anxiety time loop isn't through more thinking. It's through learning to be present with your experience without getting swept away by it. It's about training your mind to observe thoughts without believing them, to notice worry without feeding it. Your brain will probably always generate some level of nighttime mental activity, but you don't have to participate in every thought that arises. You don't have to attend every mental meeting your anxiety schedules. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do at 3 a.m. is nothing. Just lie there. Acknowledge that your mind is doing its anxious thing, and gently redirect your attention to your breath, your body, the simple fact of being alive in this moment. Your problems will still be there in the morning, but they'll be daytime problems, manageable by your daytime brain, which is much more equipped to handle them than your exhausted, overstimulated midnight mind. Sleep is not a luxury. Rest is not optional. And your worth is not determined by how thoroughly you can analyze every aspect of your life in the dark hours of the night.